Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Terrier Talk. We have a lot of news to get to this week. However, before we get there, I have a few things that I want to talk about first. Firstly, I have a very busy schedule throughout the month of January, and my ability to get these videos out on a timely basis, while possible, while true, while I can do it, it's not going to be easy, and just bear with me while I am doing this. Secondly, I would like to thank Colin Ernie for directing me to the website LA Preps. It gave me a lot more accurate information when it came to the soccer statistics. It was very helpful, especially for boys soccer. I'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to boys soccer and girls soccer to a lesser extent. But it was very helpful. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the game recaps. We'll start with boys basketball. Boys started the week with taking on South Plaquemine on Wednesday, and this was the only sporting event because of the busy schedule I have during January that I was actually able to make, unfortunately. So I will be able to go a little bit more in-depth as to exactly what happened. Hopefully throughout the year, I will be able to do this more and more often, because I will be at more games. But as of now, this is the only game I will be able to do this with. This was a very good game in the first 2.5 quarters. We ended the first half up by, I think, 2 points. And we got off to a really good start. We were gelling together. The offense was working. Everything was working. Layups, we were hitting everything. It was great. Then with about 6 minutes left in the third quarter, something happened. From 6 minutes left in the third quarter to 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we got into an extremely terrible run. South Plaquemine got off to a 20-2 run in those about 7 minutes. And both Caleb and Kenny got into a situation where they had technical fouls that got them out of the game, got them fouled out. And this put us into a terrible situation. We were up 35-34 going into the situation, and by the end of it, with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we were losing 54-37. Now we fought back. We fought hard in those last 7 minutes to get back to a 68-55 loss, but we were not able to get back. That run was huge, and it was, of course, the difference in the game. It almost looked, while watching the game, as if the game got into our heads, as if the play got into our heads. We were worried about other things. We were distracted. There was something mental going on. There was something wrong going on. But we played really hard. For the majority of that game, we played almost like the better team. And that shows a lot of character development, a lot of development of those players throughout the season. Later on in the week, we took on Lutcher. We traveled there on Friday, and unfortunately, I know nothing about this but the score. I don't know how we played. I don't know how specific players did. I just know we lost by 25, 62-37. So that's bad. That's bad. Considering the fact that we, in a neutral site game, took them to overtime the last time, that's not a good sign. We'll talk about the state of the boys basketball program and the state of our team during the previews next week, but that's just not a good sign. Moving on to girls basketball for the week. The girls started the week by taking on St Scholastica on Tuesday. It was an overtime thriller that was probably the game of the week from an entertainment value perspective. Brittany Terrier had a great game, 10 points, 10 rebounds, 7 steals, which is remarkable. Teams sometimes don't have 7 steals in a game with the entire team's statistics. But Brittany has 7 on her own in this game. Again, from what I heard, I didn't get an official source, but still, impressive. Almost a triple-double in a high school game. Extremely impressive. And we went on to win the game in overtime, 47-43. We also went to St. James on Friday. It was another low-scoring game, which is something that we are used to with the girls' basketball team, 36-24. And we went on, again, of course, to win the game. Went 2-0 for the week, and that actually puts us, if I am correct, at 5 games won in a row. That's going to make a game later on that much more appealing and much more important. because let's just say the girls have a very, very big week this week. Moving on to the soccer games over the week, boys soccer didn't have a great game against Edie White, a painful loss 2-1, although from the looks of things, in what was considered a quote-unquote rebuilding year, as I saw from both teams still look great. Both teams still look very strong. It was a great game. Very close in the first half. Edie White seemed to possess the ball a little bit more in the second half, which led to their victory, but seen great things from these two teams, and looks like they'll have a great future throughout the rest of this year as well as in the next couple of years. And of course, great job from our Terriers. In other boys soccer news, we did unfortunately lose to Holy Cross later on in that week on Saturday, 3-0. However, Holy Cross is no opponent to scoff at, and I don't think this loss will push us back too far. We also had a yearly murdering of Morgan City, because that's what happens. It was 7-1. This is Morgan City. No real surprise. We'll finish the game recaps this week with girls soccer. Outside of the obvious defeat of Morgan City, 8-0, early on in the week on Tuesday, I'm of course going to mainly talk about the big game against Edie White, which ended in a draw. This is pretty important in the ramifications of the state in general. Vanderbilt is looked at as one of the best teams in the entire state, and it has been for many years, and Edie White finally got one, relatively speaking, on us without losing, which is somewhat surprising. Again, Edie White's supposed to be great, was only 5-4-1 this season going into the game, and they went on to draw us. We fall to, I think, 14-3-3 or 14-2-3. The verification of the records is kind of hard when it comes to girls soccer, but it's a relative failure, but it's not a failure. It's a very good state of your program when only drawing to your biggest rival is seen as a bad thing. That's a very, very good thing for your program. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the main event. More on that later. We'll now move on to next week's previews. We have a lot of miscellaneous things to talk about. Bowling season opens, I think it's the opener, against Houma Christian on Monday at Creole Lanes. I know nothing about the bowling team. If I could talk to someone about the bowling team and how those go, I will go more in depth in the recaps and the previews. But as of now, I don't really know anything about the bowling team, unfortunately, and I don't really know how to get that information. If anyone could help, that would be great. They also continue the season against St Scholastica later on in the week on Wednesday. A few junior high sports as well. 9th grade basketball travels to Ellender on Monday. That should be a pretty interesting game, as well as traveling to Thibodaux on Saturday. Both very strong teams, both very good teams. Junior high girls soccer travels to Evergreen. If the junior high girls soccer team is anything like the varsity girls soccer team, it's probably not going to be a very close game. JV boys soccer goes to Central Lafourche. That should be interesting. And junior high boys basketball travels to Montague on Wednesday. That, I think, is a trophy rivalry game that I have played for before. It's interesting. It's an interesting rivalry for junior high basketball. And go support them. It's in Montague LaCache. We also have junior high on Thursday. One basketball team goes to Houma Junior High. The other hosts Houma Christian. I don't know which is which. On the Vanderbilt calendar, it just says junior high basketball at Houma Junior High. Junior high basketball versus Houma Christian. The boys are going one place, the girls are going another place. Go support them. I'll probably be at one of those games, whichever one's the home game. Probably. But at this point, I don't know which is which, sorry. There is also an indoor track meet at LSU. There was one last week as well I was not aware of. I apologize. But there's another one this week. Of course, go support the Terriers there and the people who are participating. There's also a weekend tournament for the JV teams. The boys and girls soccer teams are traveling to Terrebonne for, of course, a junior varsity tournament. We will now move on to basketball and soccer. We'll start with probably the most concerning of the four, which is boys basketball. Now, this time, about 3 weeks ago, we were 5-5. We just traveled to Grand Isle and won that game, and we were looking to be in a pretty decent situation. We have now lost 8 in a row. We're 5-13, and these 2 games are probably the 2 most winnable left on the schedule, which means these 2 games are absolute must-wins for the team. We'll start with Monday. We're traveling to East Jefferson. This is an interesting game. We are ranked slightly higher. We're actually favored here, which, again, makes this an absolute must-win. We have the same win total. Now, to be fair, Thomas Jefferson has played fewer games, 5 fewer games. They are 5-8. We are 5-13. And our only common opponent is South Plaquemine, which, again, if you look at that game, we lost to South Plaquemine earlier on this week by 13 points, 68-55. Thomas Jefferson lost to South Plaquemine by 30. So, if you look at that, I like our chances. Again, this is a must-win. We also host Grand Isle on Wednesday. Again, the last time that we played Grand Isle was the last time that we won a game. Grand Isle has won a game since then, one of their 2 of the season, against CCA, Covenant Christian. We have to. If we get to a point where we lose this game, that means that the program is going in this direction, not this direction, throughout the season. That's really bad. That's very, very bad. Of course, we're still favored. We're favored actually by a good bit. Grand Isle is winless on the road at this point. We have to win this game. We're only 3-3 at home. We can, again, must win. Again, in order to get this season back into a positive thought, I guess is the best way to put it, not only is that game a must-win, probably both are must-wins. A very important week for boys basketball. Girls basketball, of course, begins the week on Tuesday with E.D. White. Now, this game was originally going to be the main event. However, due to stiff competition and this still getting a very big role in this video, as I'll talk about in just a second, it was just made a part of the preview segment. I like our chances here. We have momentum, as I said, 5 games in a row. Statistics, odds, all on our side. We have 5 straight wins, like I said. We average 11 points per game more, and we are favored to win. E.D. White, I have a feeling, will not be able to score very much on us. I expect a low-scoring, but somewhat large victory from us this week. Probably somewhat similar to the St. James game from Friday. Later on in the week, we take on Morgan City. We host them on Friday to open up district play. This matchup is terrifyingly even. I mean, it is almost dead set 50-50, all of the statistics. Let's talk about them. We average 1.3 points per game more than Morgan City. If I recall correctly, the number is 45.2 to 43.9, or something along those lines, 43 to 44-ish, compared to 45 to 46 or 44 to 45 for us. We are barely favored in most ranking systems, only 2 spots above them in our class. Again, if I recall correctly, we are 31st in the class, they're 33rd. We have almost the exact same win percentage. We have a 58% chance, not 58% chance to win, a 58 win percentage compared to their 57 win percentage. They are 8-6. We are 10-7. When looking at common opponents, they beat St. Catholic twice in regulation, and one of those wins, the first one, was a big win, while the second one was relatively close, while we have only managed the singular overtime victory against Central Catholic. However, if you look at the HL Bourgeois game, again, looking at common opponents, that HL Bourgeois game is looking better and better for us. HL Bourgeois has walloped many, many opponents throughout the season, including Morgan City, and we only lost to them by 2 points, 45 to 43. They lost HL Bourgeois by 57, 79 to 22. I like our chances. As even as this matchup is, if you notice something, it's always 51 Vanderbilt, 49 Morgan City. 51 Vanderbilt, 49 Morgan City. I like our chances in this game. But with that being said, this game is going to be great. Another very important component of this is assuming that both teams take care of business throughout the week. We play Edie White on Tuesday, and they do play Covenant Christian Academy on earlier in the week, I think on Monday. We will have won 13 of our last 14 combined games. These two teams are dead set even. They're both on fire. This is looking to be an epic to open up district play. We'll now move on to boys soccer, who begins the week by traveling to St. Thomas Aquinas on Tuesday. Now, LA Preps has helped me a lot with the preparation of this video. However, it is not very helpful when it comes to a forum post for previewing a game this far in advance, at the very least. So with the previews, I have to look at just the rankings in general for the teams as opposed to a specific preview. Looking at that, however, this should be a win. I like our chances. We seem to be much more, I guess the best word is well-respected when it comes to different polls and ranking systems than St. Thomas More in most situations. I like our chances. We also host Lutcher on Tuesday. We are 11 spots ahead of them in rankings, and they got mauled, embarrassed by Edie White a few weeks ago, compared to our 1-goal loss to them. Again, like our chances. Those two matchups, however, pale in comparison to the strength and importance of East Jefferson, whom we travel to on Saturday. Now, in those polls and rankings, the number one team in Division 2 is Holy Cross, who we played last week and lost to 3-0, with 144 votes and 5 first-place votes. The number 2 team is East Jefferson, with 144 votes, but only 4 first-place votes. This means East Jefferson is probably just as good of a team and just as tough of a team to beat as Holy Cross. That is going to make this matchup, of course, extremely tough for us to win. However, that does not make the team unbeatable. That makes the team tough to beat. We can go out there and we can win. Can we do it? Yes. Will we do it? We'll see. But I'm very interested to see how this game turns out. Let's talk about St. Scholastica a little bit, shall we? St. Scholastica's record is 11 wins, 0 losses, and 3 draws. If that does not sound scary enough to you, they're the number 1 team in the state, the number 1 team in their class, and the number 5 team in the entire nation. For the sake of argument, Vanderbilt fell to number 44 in the nation after their draw to Edie White. 44 is absolutely unbelievable, but if 44 is unbelievable, then 5 is amazing. 5 is incredibly impressive. Number 5 is a crazy, crazy number. You could only find 4 high school girls teams in the entire nation, made up of 20, 25, 30,000 high schools, that are better than this girls soccer team. But this is Vanderbilt girls soccer we're talking about. Back-to-back state championship finalists. State champions 2 years ago. One of the best teams in the entire state. One of the most well-renowned teams in the entire state. 2 of the most well-renowned teams in the entire state. St. Scholastica has been at the top for years, and Vanderbilt has been right there with them. St. Scholastica has won many a girls Division II state championship, and Vanderbilt has won many girls Division III state championships. The best Division II has to offer versus the best Division III has to offer. Despite the fact that these two teams are in 2 different playoff brackets, that changes nothing with how important this game is for girls soccer and its landscape over the season. Will one of the most unbeatable giants fall, or will Vanderbilt succumb to their power? And that concludes our episode of Terrier Talk this week. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next week. Same time, same channel. See ya.